We've been asked to consider different myths that about the political process to bust. And so the myth that I'd like to talk about today is the idea that young people are more cynical about politics than older people. That young people are more negative in their attitudes towards politics than old people. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to use data specifically from the province of Manitoba to bust this myth for you today. The reality is that it is true that young people are cynical about politics. When we look at public opinion data, we find that young people feel that elections rarely deal with the issues that they find important. When we look just at Manitoba, we find that 6 in 10 young people, people under the age of 35, and particularly those under the age of 24, feel that elections don't deal with issues that they find important. We also find that young people do not relate to political parties, that they feel that they strongly agree or they agree that there's no real political party that they really agree with. So we see that 6 in 10 young people don't find there's political parties that they agree with. And we also see that young people don't see politicians as being trustworthy. So when they're asked whether or not they agree or disagree that politicians are trustworthy, we find that most young people, the majority of young people, disagree that they are trustworthy. So we do see overall, yes, it is true, young people are cynical. They are cynical about politics. That part is true. But the part that isn't true is that young people are more cynical about politics. Young people did not invent political cynicism, and they don't have exclusive ownership over it. The fact is that older people, people in between, political cynicism is widespread. So what we see, and this is just from Manitoba, just from the province of Manitoba, the majority of people feel that elections rarely deal with issues that they find to be important. And we see this across age categories, that young people don't get to own this cynicism. The older people in particular feel quite negative on this as well. We see the majority, regardless of age, and there are age variations, but that the majority across the province do not feel that they can relate to the political parties. So again, we see that the cynicism is not exclusive to young people, but a bit broader spread. And we also see that the majority disagree that politicians are trustworthy. And this is something that we see being an important attitude across the generations or age cohorts. So to go back to the idea of myth busting, the myth that I would like to bust today and focus on is that young people, yes, they are cynical, but they are not alone in being cynical. The fact is that the majority of Manitobans are cynical regardless of their age. We see age variations, but it's a broad spread issue that this political cynicism is not exclusive to young people and should not be treated as a young person problem per se. Now this is not only is it not exclusive to Manitobans, it's not exclusive to young people, it's not exclusive to Manitobans. So we know that nationally that this issue of political cynicism is seen, and there's research that finds that this pattern of young people not being more cynical is also seen in national data looking at Canada as a whole. Daniel Rubinson and his co-authors write, "We find no evidence that the young are disproportionately more cynical about politics. Indeed, the older group is slightly more cynical." If you have any doubt about this point, I just suggest that you give my father a call, and he will clarify that political cynicism among the slightly older cohort is alive and well. So I think the question that we really need to consider, and something that hopefully we can throw to the floor today, is, does political cynicism suggest a problem for Canadian democracy? And I think this is an open question. It's a question of whether or not this is just an attitude that is prevalent, or is this an attitude that has meaning and needs to be addressed in some way. What the data do suggest is that it's not necessarily the case that political cynicism results in people not voting. People can be voters and non-voters alike. Have healthy amounts of cynicism, but I think just to summarize, the takeaway point here is that political cynicism is broader spread than just in the youth, and when we think about cynicism in politics, I think we need to think more broadly than just young people. That's the myth I wanted to bust, and I'll end it there. Thank you.